This is Ryan, and this is part 2 of Science in the Bible. And now I'm going to kind of switch gears on you, and I want to talk about evolution, okay? Now, evolution is a theory that was created by Charles Darwin, and that basically, over billions and billions of years, okay, things went from simple single-celled organisms to multi-celled, very complex spinal cord skeletons, backbone, and everything, from just nothing, okay? Now, there's a question that I really want to pose to you. So you're telling me that these single-cell, that over billions and millions of years, that if you start with a single-celled organism, you're going to end up with a human being. So aren't we just trying to build the house again? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, see part 1. You know, so we're basically throwing all the organs to make a human on the table and build a human. No, not a frog, a human. What? No. Not. You see, you don't get a house in 65 million years if you throw all the pieces together. Okay? What makes you think you're going to get a human in a couple million years? Okay? It's totally unrealistic. Okay? Now, the other thing is, Darwin himself drew what's called the tree of life, and it's in every science book, okay? And probably the most damaging thing to Darwin's theory is that his drawing of how everything went from really simple to really complex does not appear anywhere in our fossil records, okay? What does actually appear, it's called the Cambrian explosion. And what it is basically that single-celled organisms in a period of about 10 million years went from single-celled to super complex, and basically every variation of every species on the planet erupted, okay? And that's why it's called an explosion, because it was such a short period of time, okay? Now, I was reading an article that said something like, well, there were complex organisms before the Cambrian explosion, but they didn't leave behind any fossilized evidence. Really? That to me just sounds kind of like somebody's opinion. Because that's not a fact. Well, they just didn't leave behind any evidence. That's silly. So what makes you think that there was actually complex organisms before that? There's not, because there's no proof of it, okay? Now, the second thing I want to talk about is Darwin actually gave a way to test his theory. And he said this in his own book, okay? If it could be demonstrated that any complex organ existed which could not possibly have been formed by numerous successive slight modifications, my theory would absolutely break down, okay? Now, I'm going to talk about a bacteria flagellum, okay? And these are things that live inside your body, okay? They have basically 40 different parts, okay? And they work very much like a machine. They have a motor, they have forward and reverse, okay? They have a drive shaft, a U-joint, okay? Now, you could say, well, what's so important about that? That doesn't disprove anything, but it actually does, because it's such a complex machine. The reason that it disproves his theory is because it could not have evolved. Because if one of the pieces are missing, the entire thing doesn't work, okay? So that means that your body would get rid of it. Even a primitive ape body would be like, hey, I don't need this. Click, okay? But, okay, so that's why it could not have evolved. It had to be created at one point, okay? It did not evolve over billions and billions of years, because it wouldn't have worked and your body would have discarded it, okay? Now, I want to talk logically for just a second, okay? Now, I want to ask everybody out there, okay? I understand that atheists put this at the creation of the universe and evolution, okay? This is the head of everything, okay? But I have a brain teaser. How does this make more sense than this? I mean, is it really that hard to imagine that an all-powerful being actually created things and formed things? And there's so much precision in the universe that you can't employ random chance logically. And if you look at all the facts and look at them unbiasedly, you'll come to only one conclusion. I mean, studies have been done at Berkeley and different universities across the world that have looked at all the evidence and all the complexity of life and the universe and everything, and they go, well, this does not cut it. I am not convinced. There has to be this. So thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and enjoy the rest of your night. God bless.